Welcome back again, everyone. Again, as I said, my firearm collection in the past stays very liquid. I sell, trade, and always trying to work up to a firearm that I like more than the one it's replacing, and this is that case. I like the 45 ACP. If you watch my channel, you know it's one of my favorite calibers. And these two guns actually are not similar in any way. It's probably not fair even to have them on the table together. You know, we have an $1,100 gun MSRP compared to about around a $500 gun. Of course, the Sig Sauer is the more expensive one. It's an alloy frame gun. It's a striker, hammer fired rather than the M&P Smith Wesson, which is a striker fired polymer gun with a full size slide compared to the carry slide on the Sig Sauer. Of course, they do make that in the full size version, but I wanted the carry version. And this is a recent purchase, and I had to sell about 3 firearms to get the Sig because I didn't want to quite sell off the Smith & Wesson yet, because I do like the firearm. Now, it's not a 2.0 version, so it has the old trigger in it, and actually it's been upgraded to an Apex trigger, but the reason they're on the tables together is because I have to decide which one I'm going to keep and which one I'm going to sell, and obviously the Smith & Wesson is probably going to be the one to go. It's a great gun. Triggers are their downfall. They don't have the best trigger, but the Sig just beats it all the way around as for my personal home defense type firearm. It does not have the night sights on it, whereas the Sig of course does, but then again we're talking about a huge price difference, and I'm not really comparing gun to gun, just from my personal use, what's going to work better for me. Well, there's absolutely nothing wrong with the M&P. It just loses out to the Sig as a home defense gun in my case. Trading up in price is going to obviously get you a better build quality. Again, there's nothing wrong with M&P. It's never misfired, never had a problem with it, always worked just fine. And they both can have the capability of taking a flashlight on the end, and that's particularly important in the Sig with the night sights. If you can't see your target, what use is it being able to see your sights? You can see your sights, but if there's nothing beyond your sights, it's kind of hard to pull the trigger if you don't know what you're shooting. So it was a definite trade up for me, and that's why the Smith & Wesson is going to go away. The Sig has all the attributes of a typical Sig, the high bore axis, but the gun handles it magnificently well. This one does have Hogue grips on it. This is their, I can't remember, it's a type of green. It's just a checkered. I did not care for the what's the E2 grips, I believe they come with, those snap-on grips. I bought these, got the bushings. They come with the bushings actually to put the screw type grips on. Much better grip in my opinion. Short of going with a wood grip that this gun might deserve. I would highly recommend these grips for it. Of course, the Smith & Wesson, typical of my polymer guns, has the Talon grips on it. You can always tell a Talon grip. They have that little T in it. I never had one fail, except for the previous generation. Years ago they changed their glue, I believe, and they just don't come off unless you want them to, and then if you do, they're very easy to pull off and clean up, and you've got your gun right back to its original configuration. So we can see it does have the Sig light sights on it. Now this is the first generation of this firearm. I specifically found one, and for 2 reasons. One, it has the rail on it. The newer version does not have that rail. That's one of the biggest differences on them. I'm sure there are some other smaller differences, but I really wanted the rail because I wanted to add a light to the firearm easily with the night sights. So that was important to me. And the second thing is since this one is out of vogue now and not being produced, as far as I know, I might be wrong on that, the Carry version now is more expensive than this version of the Carry version. I was able to get this one for about $300, brand new, still in the box, from an online auction, and with that money savings, I was actually able to afford it on my limited budget. So, as per requests, I've been taking firearms down a lot more. Simply lock it back. Being a hammer-fired gun, you don't have to pull the trigger on it, as most SIGs. You don't have to pull the trigger on them. Let the slide go forward, and off it comes. There we can see the typical innards of a typical modern striker-fired, or in this case a hammer-fired SIG. The twisted wire main coil spring. Other than that, takedown is going to be very similar to any other firearm that's modern. Of course, full-length rail on the SIG helps lend itself to accuracy, as well as the tight build. I run these guns fairly wet due to the fact that they're much tighter build and they like to run wet. Of course, the typical SIG trigger is just magnificent. You got some take up and then a crisp, almost 1911 break on it. One of the best triggers out there. The double action is long and heavy, it's typical. And then of course we do have a SIG decocker on it, typical of all the SIGs. Put it in safe carry mode. So there we have it. That's another swap around I'm doing. Not really a comparison. Don't mean to act like this might be a comparison. The Smith Wesson is a fine firearm, lightweight for a full-size firearm, especially compared to that alloy frame SIG. But it is a first generation with the older style trigger, and I don't need, on my budget, to have too many 45s laying around the house. So the decision time is here. Am I going to get rid of the M&P? Hard to tell. But at this moment, yeah, it's looking like it might have to leave. But anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.